Hi guys, and welcome back to my second YouTube video. On today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to create a budget. And I'm going to go ahead and actually kind of create a little bit of a video series explaining how me and my husband budget and how you can also budget yourself. So let's go ahead and get started. So guys, for the purpose of this video, I'm actually going to be using this monthly budget planner that I created. I'll actually go ahead and link it below in my Etsy store if you're interested, but most of the time what I do is I use something that's just like this, but I use an electronic version. That way it helps me kind of manage things a little bit, and I reference it and update it as much as necessary. The one that I'm linking in my Etsy store below is actually printable, or you can also use it electronically as well. If you want to use it on your iPad and stuff like that, you can kind of use it to make notes and update it as necessary. So for this video, I'll actually be writing all this information out, but I'm going to be referencing my electronic copy that I have saved on my computer as we go through this, just to make sure I don't forget anything, okay? So to start off, the very first thing that I like to include on my budget is how much income we have coming in. So for example, in my husband and I's case, we have 4 paychecks coming in every month. Now, the good thing about our paychecks is that they actually come in different weeks. We both get paid bi-weekly, but he gets paid on the opposite week that I do, which is actually really nice when it comes to bills, because it helps us make sure that we always have grocery money coming in and that we have different things like that. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and note that down. Now, because of that, I don't actually have a set date when our money comes in, so I actually won't be filling in that section. Obviously, if you have a set date that you get paid, I'd definitely recommend that you put that in there. So I'm going to go ahead and first write in his paycheck, because he usually gets paid before I do. Again, it just depends on the month, but so I'm going to put my husband's check. I'm just going to abbreviate. So he usually gets paid based off what we have budgeted. He gets paid roughly around $441.51. Now, just to clarify, one of the reasons why he gets paid this little is because right now he's actually attending school. He's going through a small 8-month program so that he can actually increase his normal income. But because he is currently in school, he is only going to work 1 day a week. So at the moment, we're currently depending a bit more on my income in order to make bills work. Now, as I mentioned in one of my shorts videos, I do live in California, which unfortunately means that our cost of living is a lot more expensive. But we're very fortunate, as I'll discuss later, to have a cheap rent payment, which helps a lot when it comes to bills and stuff like that. And we try the best that we can to budget so that we can make sure that our money goes as long as it needs to. So anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and actually just put on here under date, I'm just going to put first check. And then for my first check, if I just work the normal hours that I am scheduled to work, I get paid on average about $1,465. Now again, when it comes to writing down your income, my recommendation is that you stick to what is realistic. I know sometimes, for example, in my case, I end up working usually more hours than what I'm actually budgeting for, but I like to include the minimum on here just because if for some reason I can't work those extra hours, I want to make sure that my bills are still getting covered. And same thing goes for my husband. He only works 1 day a week, but he does try to pick up extra shifts when he can. Sometimes there's half shifts that he can do. And the other thing is that he works 12-hour shifts. He works in the medical field, and sometimes he has to stay over, so he generally has some overtime. Our checks tend to be a bit bigger than this, but we try to budget as if we were only working the bare minimum, and that way, you know, it helps us kind of stay realistic. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is write the second check, which again is going to be about the same. Obviously, too, it's really nice when there's months, for example, this month, where there's 3 Fridays. My husband is going to be getting 3 checks. So that makes it a little bit nice because we have a little bit of extra money. But generally speaking, we tend to get about 4 checks per month. So I'm going to also do the same thing. So husband's check, my check, $441.50. $1,465. All right, so that is the amount of income that we have coming in every single month. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a calculator and I'm going to add this total up. Hopefully you guys can actually see this. I'm going to try to put it right here under the camera. And so $441.50. I feel like I must have typed something in wrong. Oops. Let's go ahead and try that again. So $441.50. I see I accidentally clicked this 00 button right here. You guys couldn't see it on camera, but anyways, I'm actually going to go ahead and add in the next one, which is $1,465. I'm going to add in another $441.50. And my last check, which is $1,465. Go ahead and see how much that is. So our total income every month as a minimum comes out to $3,813. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and list that down here. So down here you'll notice I have an income versus bills. This is actually very useful because it allows us to see how much money we have left over for spending or for extra bills that may come up or for saving. So right here under total, I'm going to put, again, the date doesn't really count, but I'm just going to go ahead and put a little dash through there. But our income, we're going to go ahead and put $3,813. Now, after we total what our bills comes out to be, we're going to write that down here, and then we're going to see how much money we have left over. So guys, since the first portion of this video, when I first recorded it, didn't actually save, I'm going to just include a picture of my bills here, and I'm going to walk you through each one of them. One thing that I had explained when I originally recorded the video was that I like to split my bills basically by the first portion of the month and the second portion of the month, and I also have them organized by date. Obviously, if you don't have this done, that's completely okay. I think it's just a little bit easier for me because it lets me know exactly when stuff is coming out. Now, when I made this video, I had already done the groundwork of figuring out what those dates were and everything, so that obviously makes it a lot easier for me, you know. But the first bill that I had listed on there was my gas money. As you guys know, I live in California, and unfortunately that does mean that gas is a bit more expensive. So I do find myself using $50 on gas every single week. $50 to fill up my tank, and my husband does the same thing. So the first two bills that you'll notice on there is my gas money and then my husband's gas money. Later on, you'll see these bills repeated again, and that goes for groceries as well. That's going to be listed later on. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next bill. So something else I had explained before was that before my husband actually started his training, I had managed to pay off a lot of debt that we had. For example, I had a credit card where I owed $5,000 to, and I also owed about $17,000 on my car. So we really focused on paying that off to avoid having as much possible debt before he started school, since we knew that our income would be a bit more limited. And so because of that, we only have technically 2 credit cards that we owe. The first one is the one that's listed on here, which is a Quicksilver credit card. What I do when I'm trying to plan out my budget is I like to see what my minimum payment is due. Obviously, if I can contribute more, I will. But for the sake of seeing what the bare minimum for us to survive on is, I'd like to just include the minimum payment when I'm budgeting. So that's what you see here. The minimum payment for the Quicksilver credit card is $130. The next thing is my husband's cell phone bill and the Wi-Fi, which is $135. I currently have my cell phone bill with my sister. That's just because before I got married, we had a family plan. And that's actually a little bit cheaper for me at the moment, but we are starting to look into the fact that it may be cheaper if I join my husband. So we're going to actually be looking into that and to see which way we save more, if I continue being on my sister's plan or if I just end up combining my cell phone bill with his. But at the moment, this first cell phone that's listed is just for his cell phone bill and the home Wi-Fi that we pay for. So that one is $135, as you could see there. The next bill you'll see, which is due on the 4th, is our insurance bill, and that one is $378. And I did mention that I don't really have any debt, personal debt. Like I said, we have my husband's credit card, the Quicksilver one, and another one that I'll mention later on. But I do have a little bit of medical debt, which is this hospital bill here. I only pay $50 a month towards it. I think I only owe about $500. I'm not in a big rush to pay that off just because I know I'm not accumulating any interest on it. However, my plan is that in the near future, when I get a bonus from work, I am going to pay off the remaining balance so that I no longer owe that. But because, like I said, I'm not accruing any interest, I am just giving a $50 payment. And I suspect that hopefully by the time I get the bonus, I'll have it down to $200 or $300 so I can go ahead and finish paying that off. Now, the next thing I like to budget for is $300 for groceries. Now, this is for 2 weeks. That's about on average what we try to spend. I know groceries have been getting more expensive. We have talked about possibly raising this a little bit more, but at the moment we try to do about $150 per week. And then the next thing you'll notice on the 5th is a donation. I know that, like I mentioned, we are on a bit of a tighter budget, but we do like to donate. We donate to an organization that we feel strongly about, and so this donation varies, obviously, depending on our income. When we have more money, we're able to donate a little bit more, but now that we're on a little bit of a tighter budget, we still consider this to be a priority for us, so we like to donate $50 here. The other thing that we pay on the 5th is the gym. This is just for my husband's gym membership. This does come out twice a month, so it's $18.99. You'll find it listed again towards the end. I used to have a gym membership as well, but I noticed that I wasn't really using it much. A lot of times, as you'll see in my shorts video, I actually prefer to go walking outside, or I like to use my walking pad at home. I have some free weights at home too that I like to use. So since I wasn't really using my gym membership, I figured why keep paying for it. So I decided to discontinue it. However, my husband, he does go to the gym. He likes lifting weights and he likes using some of the machines that they have. So he has continued to pay for his gym membership. Now, the last bill that comes out at the beginning of the month is the college credit card. So my husband is attending a community college, which fortunately is a lot cheaper than if he would have tried to go somewhere else. But we did end up putting that on a credit card. Fortunately, it's not a huge balance, but we do still have to pay that off. So I do budget for that. The minimum payment for that credit card is $25. Obviously, like I said, if we can, we will pay more, but we just like to include just the $25 payment on there. To make the difference between the bills that come out at the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. And then you'll notice that I went ahead and wrote down 2 more gas things on there. One for my gas, one for my husband's gas, just because for the second portion of the month, for the last 2 weeks, we also need gas money. Sorry guys, it looks like my camera cut off, so all I did was write in the $100 here for gas. Now, on the second half of the month, the other bill that comes out is our rent money. Technically, it's actually owed at the beginning of the month, but since I know that our first paychecks aren't enough to cover that, I like to include it on the second half so I have it ready for the beginning of the month, especially because sometimes the first check doesn't come in until later in the month, so I like to budget it towards the second half. So our rent currently, like I mentioned, is actually really not that bad for California. We rent a small house. It is very small, guys, believe me, but it's only $1,000. So rent, $1,000. Now the next bill that we have is going to be groceries again. So for that, I'm just gonna put the 20th in here. I'm gonna put groceries, which is $300, and then the other bill that comes out at the beginning of the month but we budget for towards the end is our electric bill. Now this one unfortunately is pretty expensive, especially in the summers. So we like to budget $200. This one is variable. A lot of times it tends to be a lot smaller in the summertime because we use gas to heat our house up. However, in the summer, it tends to be more expensive. So whatever we don't spend in the winter, I like to save it. And in the summer, if we need extra money going towards it, that's where I can pull that money from. So the other thing that I have coming out on the 21st of the month is an Apple Charge. I do have extra storage on my phone because I have a lot of photos. And for that, I pay $9.99. Now, the second half of the month, my husband's gym bill also comes out. So we're gonna go ahead and note that down. Gym, $18.99. And then, like I mentioned earlier, my cell phone bill does come out at the end of the month. I just have to send it over to my sister. And I'm gonna see here, cell phone. I pay $60 for my cell phone bill. And then the last two things that come out at the second half of the month is our PG&E gas bill. This one varies also. It tends to be a lot lower in the summertime. Generally speaking though, it's about in the $40 to $50 range, so we like to budget $50 for that. Granted, in the winter it could sometimes be a bit more expensive depending on how much we use our heater, but generally it stays within our budget, so that one's not too bad. The last thing that I have is a car wash membership that I have. I pay $20 and I love it because it lets me go as many times as I need to. It's got free vacuums. I know that it's not a necessary bill, but trust me guys, it makes my life a lot easier, so for me it is worth it. So alright, it looks like we have all the bills that come out every month listed on here. So now we have to go ahead and total this up as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my calculator. Now you guys have to help watch me because I'm scared I'm not actually going to type in the correct numbers. Hopefully you can see the calculator. Maybe I should put it on this side. But our first bill is 100. So you can see that. 100 plus 100 is 200 plus $130 plus 135 plus 378 plus $50 plus $300 plus $50 plus $18.99 plus $25 plus $100 plus $100 plus $1,000 plus $300 plus $200 plus $9.99 plus $18.99 plus $60 plus $50 plus $20 equals $3,145.97. So right here under total bills, I'm gonna go ahead and write that down. $3,145.97. Now you'll notice here I have income, a little section for income, which we can write in here $3,813. And I have another little area here where we could write down how much is left over. So I'm going to do the same thing in this section over here, the income versus bill section. So we have our income and our total bills comes out to, so bills, $3,145.97. So let's go ahead and see how much is left over. So we're going to go ahead and clear this. And we're going to write in $3,813 minus $3,145.97. So it looks like that leaves us with a leftover total of $667.03. So let's go ahead and write that down here. $667.03. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side over here. $667.03. Guys, writing down your income versus your bills is super crucial when it comes to creating a budget, because it allows you to see an overview of your finances and see what amount of money you're working with. Now, granted, out of this money that we have right here, me and my husband like to give ourselves a little bit of spending money, because that just allows us to be able to enjoy life, because like I mentioned, we are in a bit of a tighter budget. We've cut out a lot of unnecessary things, but sometimes expenses come up. Sometimes you want a coffee, sometimes you want something else to sip on a nice cold day. So having a little bit of spending money is important. That is not included in this sheet because I like to I guess you could say change up our spending money depending on how much is left over. So if we didn't have any money left over, we wouldn't be using any of the spending money, but at the moment, that's what we have. Something else to keep in mind is, like I said, even though this right here is our bare minimum income, any extra money that comes in, that's what I tend to use a lot to go towards our debt. Like I said, right now we have the Quicksilver credit card, the college credit card, and then we also have the hospital bill that I try to pay off. So every time we have any extra money coming in, I try to use it towards that. Or if we have any extra bills that come in that we didn't necessarily budget for, that's what we use that extra money for. But please follow and subscribe. On my next video, I'm going to go a little bit more into debt, into how I determine what our spending money is going to be, and how I kind of juggle our paychecks to ensure that all our bills get covered without missing any of them, because we don't have a set income for sure every single week. So anyways, if you're interested in seeing more content like this, please follow and subscribe. I'll be posting some more videos talking about budgeting and how you also can create your own budget.